Okay, my guy, Stephen A. Smith is here, man. A little bit of controversy. CNN brought him on. Let's find out what's happening with Stephen A. Smith. This is my guy. Reaction video.
Incredibly alarmed by what appears to be our First Amendment rights being attacked. This is what I do for a living. I don't like that. But you know he's coming. The man is coming. And you have to adjust accordingly.
Well, that was Stephen A. Smith talking about the Jimmy Kimmel situation. And when I heard
He's coming. You got to adjust. First Amendment rights. Okay, this is interesting, man. Where's he going? CNN host says Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know. So this sounds so controversial right now. Let's find out what um, Stephen A. Smith. I'm watching this right now. I'm trying to react to this eh, presently. I don't think. I hope he's not talking about Donald Trump. I just hope he's not talking about President Donald Trump. Let's find out.
him say that, I thought to myself, what exactly does he mean? Well, he was kind enough
Exactly.
to accept our invitation, and he's with us right now. He's also the host of the new show, Straight Shooter with Stephen A. on SiriusXM, Wednesday nights from 6 to 8. Stephen A., welcome back. I'm glad that you're here. I want to dive right in because you said the man is coming and you have to adjust accordingly. Tell me what you mean by that and why that is different than, say, pandering or self-censorship, and you think just the right move.
Yes. Tell us what you mean by that. I want to know because I can go many directions with that statement. First Amendment rights, you could be positive, negative, but coming after seems like it's a negative connotation. But I'm not going to say anything because Stephen A. has said many things in the past that he went back. Not many things, but a couple things he went back on. He rerouted certain things. So he's very certain times controversial with people, entities, organizations, but he does speak his mind. So I would like to know where is he coming from so I can um, lead my reaction to this statement, his statement, because I'm kind of in limbo right now with this. But I believe Stephen A. is going to clear it up because looking at his face expression, this man's going to clear it up real good. It's like the original Stephen A. right here, man. But he's about to let it out. He's about to come and tell you what he really meant about it. Okay, we got a little boat here, little quick little situation. Let's get on forward back to this video and see what Stephen A. Smith got to talk about.
Listen, I think it's obvious that the president is on a vengeance tour. He's out to exact retribution against all naysayers, all critics, anybody that he deems necessary to go after. And he's made no apologies for it. He's told us on numerous occasions that is what he intends to do, and that's exactly what he's doing. And when you look at Jimmy Kimmel and the stance that he took, do I believe that it was the wisest thing to do? No. But it's certainly within his right to do so, and it should be within his right to do so, as is the case for Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, or anybody else, because as our former President Barack Obama articulated, these kind of matters are at the heart of a democracy. First Amendment rights, the right to free speech, no matter who it is. And when you're trying to use government influence like Trump has done with the FCC, Mr. Brendan Carr, and you're trying to force your will upon folks from a government's perspective, that's problematic. That goes exactly against First Amendment protections. And so the fact that President Trump has been willing to take that stance, has been unapologetic in doing so, definitely points the finger of, trying to infringe upon our First Amendment rights. I was just of the mindset, however, that he's made it very, very obvious for quite a long time that this is exactly what he was willing to do. Stephen Colbert was obviously an example before Jimmy Kimmel became an example. And I was of the mindset that Jimmy Kimmel, you've got to know that. And all of us have to know that to some degree and operate accordingly. For certain severe critics of him, the man is coming. He's not playing around. He's unapologetic about the retribution he's willing to exact against anybody he deems harmful to his ego, his psyche, his presidency in his own way that he may choose to materialize it.
But what does
Know
that mean
this,
then?
and
Hold
operate
on. I want you to, but you said no.
Right there, Stephen A. I kind of I'm against that. I respect your opinion, but I'm against. I don't think that's the truth. I don't think that's a factor. I think yes, the president has people that he stated through his political campaign, and we've seen a lot of things that people was doing that come out to be suspect from both sides have indicated that was wrong. Now, President, we like President Obama. I like President Obama. I like President Clinton. I like President Trump. But what I'm gonna say this: Obama said a lot of things that I'm gonna use the same words that he used. His camp used is campaign rhetoric. Campaign rhetoric. I think some things can be chopped up as campaign rhetoric, but it seems you hold things hard and fast to Trump. Yes, he has people that he don't like, and maybe he might, but you can't say he gonna use the federal government to come down on their heads. And if that's the case, many administrations use the federal government to support their personal uh, agendas. As far as President Biden, President Biden, I like President Biden. President Biden said that he would not pardon his son, but on the last day he ended up pardoning him, knowing certain situation was out of bounds, but he still did it. So hey, they all administration done do things, but I don't know. I think you're kind of reaching for straws with this one. But let's continue on. I like Stephen A. Smith, but I really think he reached for straws with this one. I think you have some points, but to go deep down that rabbit trail by saying President Trump is going to use the administration to attack his opponents, I don't think that's accurate. He's sitting the president in the Oval Office right now. We can't put that totally entirely on him. When he was saying this, it was campaign rhetoric, um, and now he's not. He has his opinion about certain situations, but and other people, but I don't think that's entirely true all the way. Let's continue on listening.
Yes, and operate accordingly. Describe though, because when you say operate accordingly, you can on the one hand know this, and the response can be, and I'm not going to lay down and take it. I'm not going to stand aside and allow and acquiesce. The other side is move accordingly, sort of under the radar in some way. How are you defining operate accordingly? Because I know from just hearing you and following your whole career, you are somebody who's been unapologetic about speaking your mind, having even unpopular opinions, and not pulling any punches. So is this different than
That's
that?
true. Yeah, because I'm fair and balanced. I'm not one-sided, and I'm not directing my eye at one individual consistently since 2015. That's not the kind of behavior I choose to engage in. Even people that I don't like, that I've been on the record stating I don't like, I still remain fair and balanced. When they deserve to be complimented, I say so. I don't avoid complimenting them just because I may not like them. And when they deserve to be criticized, I don't hesitate to do so. And their opponents or people that are on the opposite side of the aisle than other figures, I'll make sure to call them out too, under the same guise. If I agree with them, I'll say so. If I don't agree with them, I'll say so, and I'll say why. You have to remember that with Trump and the government itself, particularly as presently constructed, they're looking and accusing folks of being fair and partial. They're not being fair and balanced. That's the accusation that they're making. If you know that's what his fight is going to be, make sure that you don't hesitate to criticize others on the opposite side just as equally. So when he comes complaining about you, he can't say that you've been biased and discriminate against him and his administration. Make sure.
I'm with you to a certain extent, Stephen A. Smith, but you have been unfair in certain situations, and you haven't been balanced in certain situations. Just one with LeBron James. You have stood your ground on certain people, and at any time you have always been unapologetically that you'll speak up at any time. And certain times you didn't. It was one of the words of Stephen A. Smith that we know of, and people have called you out on that. So now you're saying you're being fair and balanced since 2015. A couple situations. One situation I don't think you was that one on the field when LeBron stood over you, and I understand two men speaking, but at the same time you spoke differently when you was on your own show, and I was like, wait a minute, you're speaking this way, but you didn't speak that way in front of him at the time when he spoke outright, and you could stand your ground on there, but you didn't totally do it the way I know Stephen A. Smith would do it previously. I don't know all the reasons for it, but what I've seen and what you said, uh, that wasn't the Stephen A. Smith I knew previously. Like when I watched you were talking with Mayweather. So it's interesting to see this part, and I still respect you. I still hold you high, but just saying certain things, talking about Trump, uh, stands out to me. But let's continue listen more to find out. Maybe I get more clarity of where you're going with this.
Sure, you're able to do that because throughout history, from Johnny Carson to Jay Leno to David Letterman and others, they pulled no punches with anybody. But over the last several years, definitely there has been more cynicism and skepticism thrown in his direction, even when he wasn't the president, when he left office in 2020, as much as it was happening when he was in office for his first term. Fair and balanced is the answer to that question. That's how you ward off some of the arguments that he may try to make on your behalf.
I understand how you navigate the minefield and not to be naive. I do want to turn for a second, though, from somebody who is not censoring at all oneself. I'm talking about the former Vice President, Kamala Harris, because her new book, very blunt. I mean, she called Biden's decision to keep running reckless. She says she was disappointed with Tim Walz's debate performance, that she actually wanted Pete Buttigieg as VP, but didn't pick him because he'd be too risky because he's a gay man. She claimed that Governor Newsom avoided her call, called Governor Shapiro too ambitious, accused Biden of distracting her right before the debate with Trump. I mean, I could go on. I do wonder what you think the end game is here. Does any of this help her party move forward now that she is being so open about how she really felt? Or is this something that is perhaps transparency that might cut off one's nose to spite someone's face?
I want to say this. I want to make one point before we go on. Um, One thing about Trump, President Trump, he has called out Republicans and Democrats. I think he's been more balanced in the news versus other the different people in the news, in the media, different politicians, different other members of the media, different members of the political circle, as far as congressmen, uh, all type of mayors, governors. I just say the politicians at large. Um, I think he's called out Republicans and Democrats. If we look at the total time he's been calling out Republicans and Democrats, he has his people he like, but he also will state when he don't like something, and if he don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. So he done made some statements many times. So I think he's more balanced as going from Stephen A. Smith structure and communication style about being fair and balanced. I think President Trump has been more fair and balanced this this election than other politicians and media outlets. But that's just opinion. What is your view on that? Leave a comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think about it below. Let's continue on with this.
I believe Kamala Harris's political career is over.
Ooh.
I think you've seen the last of her with this book, politically. I'm quite sure she's a highly intelligent woman, very accomplished. She's a former state attorney general. She's a former senator. She's a former vice president of the United States, and obviously the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States in 2024. But this was the last straw, and I'm going to tell you why. Because although I'm certainly not an advocate of her diming out her boss and talking about whatever deficiencies he may have had, you could have said something. You could have done something other than what you did. And I don't want to hear about 107 days and that's all you had. You know what 107 days gave you? It gave you the opportunity to take over the campaign and do it your way instead of capitulating to what his people wanted you to do and you doing whatever you thought was necessary under the realm or the guise of loyalty and costing and in some people's eyes costing yourself the presidency. There are things that she could have done that was more effective. Don't get me started with her appearance on The View. Don't get me started with when Sonny Houston looked at her and said, is there anything that you would do differently than Joe Biden? And I can't think of anything. Nobody wants to hear that when the country was in the state that it was in, and we knew that change was the order of the day, and you had a candidate that was not only using her rhetoric, her verbiage, and the lack thereof from him, but also was accusing her as hiding and engaging in his own definition of machismo or misogynism or whatever you want to call it, to point out how he was a man's man and he goes everywhere and he talks to everyone, while she was not willing to do that initially. And then you come out with a book in the aftermath of it all, and you've talked about Pete Buttigieg and him being gay, or you talked about Josh Shapiro, the governor that I just interviewed the other day, and you talked about him being too eager for the vice presidency when he was clearly a better choice than Tim Walz, or you want to talk about Gavin Newsom now, but you wouldn't do it before. Nobody's trying to hear that now. That is a candidate that's on her way out the door, and I'm not saying I wish it. I've had the pleasure of meeting her once before. She is a very nice person, very accomplished. I respect her, but when I look at the excerpts from this book, it's too little, too late. And that's what this comes down to. As far as I am concerned, I believe, and I hope I'm wrong, but I believe her political career is over. The minute people buy this book and read it with the stuff that she could have said and the stuff that she could have done, but refrained from doing, which obviously contributed to her losing the election, it's too little, too late. Are you in it to win it or not? She wasn't. And that is that.
Well, now I want to read the whole book and see how the context around the excerpts might answer some of the questions as to why now, why this, and why she's saying what she is saying. Stephen A. Smith.
This is the end. This meet this CNN. Stephen A. Smith been on the CNN. I think he has said some made some major points. Said some very controversial issues. Um, Especially with the last Vice President Kamala Harris, which is really popular person in the political circle. Um, I wouldn't have went that far, but hey, like he said, maybe it's a new turn of unapologetic. He's always spoke his mind that I known of Stephen A. Smith. Just watching him on First Take, uh, ESPN, and his own podcast. So I respect Stephen A. Smith. I don't agree with some of the things he said. Like no one's gonna agree with everybody, um, and definitely it's just interesting. I don't think it's the end of her career at all. I think it's controversial. I think it's gonna be her unapologetic truth to what she felt her experiences was on the campaign trail in the White House as the vice president. And I agree with Stephen A. You don't rat out your boss. I totally agree with that. If you have a boss, know your position, and in that position, your boss picked you. So regardless of what the boss say, you keep that in house. So I agree with Stephen A. Smith. If I haven't read the book, if she's had excerpts about President Biden, in the old days, how they say, off with your career. I'm gonna say it that way, off with your career, because you reached up to power that's above you, and attempts to bring it down, even if that was not your intentions. That's what you put out there in the world. And if that's in this book, something negative about President Biden and to bring him down, then the normal in the world of power, that's what happens. But I don't really think this is the end of her political career. I think as Stephen A came on the show, she had to do some things to address some of the statements she made. Just like as Stevens A. Smith came on CNN host with Laura Coates, uh, he's clarified things. So you got to give her a chance to clarify what she said in the book and what she really meant. Because you're just hearing from you're just reading it from one perspective. Is that really what she meant by making that statement? Is that what she really wanted to say? Do you know she's going to litigation with the person that wrote the book? Is she a writer? Did somebody write the book for her? There's so much encompassed in this book, the manuscript. So you got to be mindful of that. So I don't think it's the end of her career. I think if these statements are in there, I think it's a challenging aspect to her career, and she had to the vice president would the previous vice president Kamala Harris will have to do some damage control. But I don't believe it's the end of her career, political career. It possibly could not be. But just make that statement, I don't know. So I want to make that point clear. I don't think it's the end of her career. Vice President Kamala Harris could move on from this. I wish her the best. I wish Steve A. Smith the best. I wish this host the best, and I really enjoyed this. But I learned a lot from Stephen A. Smith on this one. Let's finish it up.
Most
Huh?
people, most people ain't gonna read the whole book. Most people ain't gonna read the whole book. They're gonna take the excerpts and
I'm gonna
run
read
with
the
it.
whole book.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. You should read the whole book, but there's a lot of people that's gonna take the excerpts and run from it and use it as a reason to dismiss anything that she's saying. So I hope the book is very, very successful for her, because that's what she's gonna have to fall back on in her wonderful life and all her accomplishments. But her future as a politician, I believe, is over.
Say no more, Stephen A. Smith. Say no more. I don't agree with you. Yes, you're saying that you made it. That's a bold statement. You made her saying that that book is what she's going to fall back on. I think there's other opportunities for her. Many things. If you look at the people that came before her, vice presidents, she has a plethora of blueprints of what she can go fall back on from previous vice presidents. She has so many circuits to move on. I wish her the best. I wish her the best on this book. Uh, I think you should have held back some things, but that's my opinion. But like you said before, and as the host said, Stephen A. Smith is unapologetic. He tells his version, his perspective of the truth, his truth, and he stands on it for the most part. Uh, yeah, I don't think this ended her career at all. Uh, but if the like I said, if the excerpts come out the way it seems to be coming out, and we're hearing more negative through the media, social media, different channels talking about her book, she might have to do some damage control. But we'll see. Well, this is a good one. I hope y'all enjoy it. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, leave your comment down below. Let me know what you think. I will go over the comments and I'll respond to many as I can. I hope you have a wonderful day. Without further ado, this has been enlightening, and we're going to stop right here on this one and wait to hear the response because this was